Good morning, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. We will start momentarily. I just want to remind everybody that we have interpretation available in several languages today. You can find at the bottom of your Zoom window the icon for the interpretation. I would love to hear where you're connecting from, so please send that into the chat. And as we go into the discussion, if you have questions, you are welcome to post them in writing using the Q&A chat. And that said, I'd like to introduce you our first speaker of today, Jos Vassen. Jos is the World Bank Independent Evaluation Group Chief Evaluation Officer and Senior Advisor, and the head of the Global Evaluation Initiative. So, Jos, thank you for joining us, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Patricia, and welcome to this event, esteemed colleagues. This event is an occasion where we will have representatives from bilateral and multilateral development partners discussing how evaluation and evaluation capacity development are changing in a changing world. As you may know, bilateral and multilateral development partners, they have traditionally been very strong supporters of evaluation, as international development cooperation has been among one of the most highly scrutinized policy fields that use taxpayer money. As a result of that, we also see that independent evaluation functions in these institutions are very well established and have been providing their parliaments and their boards and other stakeholders with evidence to support accountability and learning. Now, the context in which evaluation for international development cooperation takes place is changing, has been changing quite significantly. So I would like to briefly recapitulate some of the factors that are at play here. So first of all, the meta perspective, and I'll be brief on this. We all know that the world is constantly changing. There are global phenomena such as climate change, geopolitical tensions, technological advances, and many other factors that are affecting people's lives across the planet. And in many ways, this is also affecting international development cooperation. The political context and the funding for international development cooperation has been changing. This also affects priorities and budgets of development partners and has implications for evaluation as well. The practice of evaluation has also been changing in the light of these factors. In particular, and this has been the topic of Glocal, we now see the entry of artificial intelligence applications in the field of evaluation. From an evaluation capacity development perspective, we also see a very different evolving context. The capacities of countries in which development cooperation financing is going has been changing. More and more countries that have been on the receiving end of international development assistance, they have now incipient or even well-developed national evaluation systems. However, progress has been very uneven, and in many countries, donor-driven evaluation practices remain practically the only game in town. In other countries, that is not the case anymore, and we see overall that in a growing number of countries, there are skilled national evaluators who are part of the evaluation practice. So this, of course, raises also questions around the role of donor-driven evaluation and how it should evolve over time. It should be noted in this context as well that evaluation capacity development initiatives have significantly contributed to the growing capacities in evaluation in development assistance recipient countries. And this also has been a long-standing agenda for many multilateral and bilateral development partners, including the panelists that are around the virtual table today. So today we are going to hear from three distinguished panelists. They are all representatives of bilateral and multilateral development institutions who support evaluation capacity development through the GEI, but they also commission and conduct evaluations. And they will share with you their forward-looking reflections on the changing practice of evaluation, as well as the role of national evaluation capacities and systems. So let me stop here by matter of introduction, and it's now my pleasure to hand over to my colleague, Patricia Coca, who is the GEI's Communication and Knowledge Management Lead, and she will lead us into the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jos. That was a very good way to set the stage for the two topics that we want to bring to our panel today. On one side, to talk about how the practice of evaluation itself is changing, and then what that means for national systems and capacity. So before any further ado, let me introduce our three panelists today. So we have from Finland, Nea-Mari Heinonen. She's the lead evaluation specialist and the deputy director for the Development Evaluation Unit of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. From Germany, Robin Cordes, senior policy officer at BMZ. And then from IFAD, Indran Naidoo, who is the director of the Independent Evaluation Office. So thank you very much. A warm welcome to the three of you. And Jos just set out how much is in motion at the moment. And I'd like to begin with talking about the evaluation practice itself. Demands on evaluation rise, but there is a new force in the space. AI is promising to do more with less, but at the same time, is also a threat to the very trust that makes evaluation be the go-to when we want to make good decision. And so my first question to all of you comes in two parts. I would like to ask you to be as brief as possible so that we have the possibility to all speak. But the question is, what does the field most need to change to stay credible and useful? And is AI part of the answer or part of the problem, or both? So I'd like to start with this question. And Indran, would that be okay to start with you?
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. Very briefly, I think firstly, in terms of what needs to change, we need to think differently and to recognize that now not only we have more stakeholders and actors, we have more machines. And this merging between the human and non-human, or the technology, must be taken into account because it is a reality. But what is important is we need to know how to use it and to make sure that it does not become abused, because this data can be manipulated in many ways. What needs to remain is that evaluation is ultimately a judgment about past performance. Therefore, the principles of independence, credibility, and utility must remain intact. Independence is a non-negotiable. The arguments that evaluation is about learning, no, learning comes through the accountability, and we need to entrench it more so now than ever. Globally, independence is critical if you wish to move the world forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Indran. And Robin, from your point of view and from a bilateral agency point of view, what do you see?
Yeah, thank you very much, Patricia, and for the opportunity to speak today. With regard to your question, what would need to be done differently or intensified today, I think I would like to highlight three aspects from our perspective. So first, we think that evaluation must remain firmly anchored in good governance and accountability. Especially in fragile and fast-changing contexts, we need systems that generate credible evidence on what works, for whom and why, and that allow administrations to be held on account. Second, as donors in times of shrinking budgets, we need to move further from isolated projects towards a more systemic and joint approach. Many of us have invested in evaluation capacity development over the years, including Germany. But I think the next step is to intensify our collective efforts to support partner countries in building and sustaining national M&E systems. And multilateral platforms such as the Global Evaluation Initiative can, from our perspective, help reduce fragmentation, align our contributions, and offer partner countries with a more coherent package, so to say, with lower transaction costs than many separate bilateral initiatives. And lastly, as evaluators, we need to put much more emphasis on usability and timing. Today, the demand is not only for methodologically robust evidence, but also for evidence that is available in time for key decisions and that is truly accessible to policymakers and the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And Nea-Mari, from your perspective, what do you see?
Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. I speak as an expert in the independent evaluation unit of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland, not as a representative of the ministry as a whole. What we in our unit have seen taking place is much what was introduced already. It's a changing political context. What we have seen is a change from solidarity to mutual interest, broadly speaking. Development policy, which is what guides our activities in the evaluation field, is changing from development to security, trade, and other priorities. Channeling financing is a moving target, with many donors facing cuts in their aid budgets, but also a moving target in terms of how to measure results through RBM and evaluation. Staff reductions also affect the ability to generate and use evidence. At the same time, globally, we are still struggling with evidence gaps and lagging results in our common goals, such as the SDGs. And yet there seems to be a degree of disinterest growing about the SDGs globally. What we see taking place globally is growing politicization of aid and using it instrumentally as a means to support other policy objectives. Politics and decision-making tend to be ahistorical and repeat some of the old mistakes, as policymakers tend to rely on the newest political winds and not necessarily on evidence. Evaluative evidence is not always being used for policy design or decisions about policy implementation. And all of this is rather worrying. And if you ask what the evaluation field needs to strengthen to meet today's demands for credible and timely and useful evidence, I would say that first of all, we need to ensure that the demand will stay. We should not take that as granted. Funding cuts and financial pressures do not automatically mean that there will be a demand for evidence-based decisions for gaining greater efficiency. At the moment, the evaluation community runs the risk of evidence giving way to other more important or political justifications. While policy and decision-making has always been political and the sum of many different factors, these times that we are living in have raised new challenges to the role of evaluative evidence in that equation, not the least because of the speed of things changing all the time. So what the evaluation field could do is to help, first of all, and secure the demand for evidence for planners, decision makers, give them the idea that, oh, this is really what we need, in a way that also explains why using evidence is important. And also identify better what, when, and what format and channel, and to whom do we produce evidence. Also, we need to, I think, step up some of our communication efforts, but this is also difficult because of the increasing cuts also to some of the communication functions that different organizations are facing. But also, just broadly speaking, we need to maintain the interest of the general public in addressing our shared global challenges and goals, and also working with our partners in doing so. So what does the AI bring into the equation? Although I see many challenges, I do think there's an opportunity for the evaluation community to come together and globally raise awareness of the importance of evidence-based decision-making. In the age of AI, there's many uncertainties, competing political agendas, disinformation, and rapid changes taking place. I think AI and data science more broadly will definitely offer new opportunities to data extraction, generation, analysis, and reporting as part of robust mixed method evaluations. We should think beyond generative AI and chatbots and consider the broader opportunities for engaging computationally with the vast bodies of evidence that has really not been possible before. For example, we are able to get complementary quantitative data that uses entire evidence corpora or use geospatial data for impact evaluation. And some of these methods can help fill existing evidence gaps and even reconstruct evidence where it has been missing. This does not mean that we need to abandon more traditional methods. Also, applying AI should not come at the cost of reduced evaluation quality, rigor, or trust in evidence. We will always still need evaluation professionals and those who are accountable for the outputs, and ensuring transparent analysis to carry out independent external judgment and also maintaining contextual understanding. We also have been active in bringing up the topic of AI as part of our partnerships with GEI, but this does not really mean that AI should be pushed everywhere without any careful consideration. Rather, I think what we are facing is that AI is already here, and what are the ECD needs really that best meet the demand of partners? And when everybody's in the end, that we are faced with this changing landscape, and it also affects evidence. I believe all evaluation functions really need these types of capacity building and mutual learning, really on the basic understanding of what these new technologies are and how they can be used responsibly, and also how to manage the opportunities and risks. This is a topic that will be here for many years, also affecting ECD, whether we plan it for or not. And really, as said, it should be part of a whole, not as a replacement for M&E or any other approaches that we currently already have. So I will talk a little bit more about this topic also in another session coming later this afternoon. So I'll stop here. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nea-Mari. So I heard from Indran talking about the need to know how to use AI, and Nea-Mari, you touched upon that as well, and the need to stay and remain independent as a non-negotiable feature of the evaluation function. Robin, you touched about the importance of evaluation being necessary for good governance and accountability, but also about the visibility and the timing, the timeliness of the evaluation in order to be able to feed into the decision-making process. And Nea-Mari, you touched upon many things, but what I really struck with me was your comment on the need to continue to have a strong demand for evaluation. And this is really crucial because this touches upon so many things and so many fields. So now this has been really a rich start, and I'd like now to shift a bit on the other topic. And we have seen that priorities are shifting, and what gets funded, what gets the attention of the funders might shift as well. So where do national M&E system and independent evaluator fit into meeting the evidence need of the institutions? And I would say when priorities are narrowing, how do you keep making the case for investing in ECD, in evaluation capacity development, which is often something that requires long-term investment and is not as feasible and politically sexy as other topics that are more urgent in nature? So this time, Robin, I would like to start with you.
Thank you very much, Patricia. So with regard to your question, I think our main shift at the moment is towards a much more partnership-based and systemic approach. So, as you might be aware, German development policy is currently undergoing a major reform to make our cooperation more strategic, more focused, and more partnership-based, with a clearer concentration on countries where the needs are greatest. And within this reform, evaluation and evidence are clearly reaffirmed as core principles of our work, with particular emphasis on linking evidence to real policy decisions and reform processes in partner countries. As an evaluation unit in a ministry, we do not primarily work directly with individual evaluators in partner countries. So our main lever is how we support national evaluation systems and the broader ecosystem. And I think here demand orientation is crucial. We want to respond to partner country priorities and avoid creating parallel donor systems. This is why our engagement in the GEI is so important for us. Through GEI and also through the CLEAR centers, we want partner countries to be really in the driver's seat, to use and strengthen their own systems wherever possible, and to be able to evaluate their own development results. So in this sense, we actively support localization and country-led evaluations, and we have firmly anchored ECD, evaluation capacity development support, in our own evaluation system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Nea-Mari, I would like to go back to you. So how do you see this change and shift in priorities, if you see any?
Yes, thank you very much. How our evidence and evaluation priorities are evolving is that we are trying to make greater usage of existing evaluative evidence when conducting desk reviews and syntheses, for instance. However, our evaluations are always mixed methods, and we use existing evidence. Using existing evidence can only take you so far. So for accountability particularly, there's always need to collect new up-to-date evidence in addition to using what is already there. We cannot really replace existing or new evaluation data and evidence by synthesizing past evidence only. We have also faced several rounds of cuts as part of the overall cuts to our development cooperation budgets. This has meant that we have had to make some adjustments to our evaluations and activities. We also have to take into account that there's fewer people available to take part in our evaluations, and everyone is under a lot of time constraints. Nevertheless, the core business is still very much the same. We plan ahead with our multi-year rolling evaluation plan and keep it flexible in this ever-changing context that we talked about. The good thing is that the policy priorities on mutual interest and equal partnerships, they really do logically support ECD activities when we think about it, where partners develop capacities and systems. But this logic is not automatically understood by decision makers either. I think initiatives such as the GEI can offer a great multilateral avenue. The challenge is, of course, how can we effectively communicate that policy connection and the results of system strengthening in a way that showcases systems level changes in addition to individual skills. So these are some of the challenges that we still need to address at our end to really keep making that case for ECD activities and that policy linkage. Thank you.
Thank you, Nea-Mari. And Indran, from your point of view and from what you see at IFAD, what is your take?
Well, thank you very much. So we do not have an explicit capacity building mandate at IFAD, but we do it, and I agree with the colleagues, we do it through partners like the GEI. And this comes from the basis that the IFAD stakeholders, they want both accountability and learning, and they go together. And of course, as you know, we have a fully independent office reporting to the executive board with all the institutional, behavioral, operational parts fully entrenched. But what is important is that while we may not have the capacity ourselves to do national evaluation capacity, there are institutions like the GEI, which IFAD supports, which does it and has the knowledge at the country level to do so very effectively. So what we do from our point of view is to direct the GEI to programs and countries that can benefit from this capacity. And thus far, it's been very effective. So it also avoids duplication. It ensures that there's a coherence. And if you look at the progress that GEI has made in the last few years, it has been quite tremendous in terms of all areas, capacity building. Because if you want an improvement of government performance, you need to empower and capacitate the government to have better evaluative capacity, build the culture at that level, because ultimately they have the ability to shift policies and programs. So I think what's in place is working, and we'll see how it evolves as we move ahead. It's a complex area. We all don't need to be in the space, but if you got an umbrella body like GEI, which draws on international experts in various areas across the globe, we continue to use that. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Indran. Music to my ear. And I'd like now to see if there are questions from the audience. We would like to keep this session as interactive as possible. I saw that David Ryder has already shared a question, so I will read that to you. Please, if you have any other question, feel free to type them in the Q&A chat. So I will read this one, and then I have one from my side to the three speakers. So anyone that would like to respond, and Jos, feel free to add to that too. I'm welcome to do so. So David Ryder Smith is asking, has evaluation capacity development in developing countries been too focused on the supply side? If so, what are the examples of addressing incentives for greater use? I see that you are all busy taking notes. Would anybody who would like to start?
Well, maybe I start. Oh,
thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm not actually sure. We have been part of the GEI since the beginning, and we don't really do a lot of ECD, not in the scale of some other actors perhaps, and also not to the scale of some of the multilateral actors either. What I've seen through the GEI is that it is very much demand focused and demand driven. So it's the partner countries that seem to really identify. They do their initial diagnostics and capacity needs assessments, and really make up that priority list of capacity building activities that then becomes part of the GEI engagements. That's my experience so far. I don't know if I can say that it's very much supply side driven. Rather, I think there's more demand than currently can be met with these different initiatives. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. If I could come in, I would echo what Nia has said. In fact, the demand outstrips the supply. So if you look at an initiative that is within the GEI umbrella, which is the National Evaluation Capacity Series, the conferences, the NEC, that has been run by UNDP, they fully demand-driven. The countries actually put down the topics and they articulate what they need to do. And you've had, close on 2,000 participants, about 150 governments, actively engaging in the subject of evaluation from their perspectives. And when you get down to that level, you realize there's a tremendous amount of capacity out there. So what we talk about in capacity building is really facilitating and getting the South-South triangular cooperation cross-learning happening, then actually coming with ideas from the traditional global North and imposing them in the countries. And that's the reason why these initiatives are very successful, including the CLEAR initiatives, the IFAD, because there are really elements of demand. And I think it's continuing and will build up momentum. Another element we need to recognize, it's linked directly to transparency and accountability and good governance. So those factors and those incentives are across the globe in different places at different intensities. And that's what actually also drives governments' need to actually demonstrate greater transparency and accountability to remain in power. And that's what actually helps to a marked extent. Thank you.
Thank you, Indran. Robin, would you like to jump in, or otherwise I have another question?
I think the main points have already been made by my colleagues. So I think that GI is offering a well demand-orientated package offered to partner countries, and we also saw that there's more demand than actually supply. So I think we're going in the right direction in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. So a question regarding the long-term picture. Are there plans in place to start relying more on national systems, on national experts for their evaluation? And I'd like also to ask one more question. Is there a real risk that a strong evaluation capacity becomes something only well-resourced institution can sustain? And what could change that? So I leave it to you to pick the question you want to answer, or you can answer both. And this time I ask for a volunteer again, otherwise I'll pick. Indran, can I start with you?
Sure, thank you. As far as the national capacity element goes, the IOE, IFAD, we use national consultants in the country level evaluation. And we believe we have found that that provides us with great insights in the context. And it is also a way in which we build capacity because they get an opportunity to work on international independent evaluations. So that is the modality, although we lead it from here and I sign off eventually. That's what makes us expands on our capacity. So there's no question about that. You cannot understand context if you're only doing it from headquarters. In terms of your second question, I don't have a definitive answer, but those that are well-resourced will continue to be well-resourced, and they make a statement. I would say that in the Evaluation Cooperation Group, which is the heads of evaluation of the MDBs, we have not had a resource problem. We've had high demand, and it continues. So we've not been affected by cuts. But in the United Nations Evaluation Group, the evaluation officers there have had cuts, and that has affected the evaluation function. And also the stronger officers are likely to become absorbed into audit and other related functions, but not pure evaluation. So there's a very real risk there. I think moving ahead, there may be a need for the UN system to think of umbrella evaluation functions, where you get a strong office that deals with many agencies and under one umbrella with the capacity, with the independence, credibility, and utility, than to rely on these multiple small offices that have really no capacity to make any difference. And there needs to be changes to governance, but that's something that needs to happen. So you see a real threat on the eroding of evaluator capacity in systems that do not have the financial clout or do not have the independence, which is something that tends to be more the norm in the UN system. And I think we all can help through initiatives like GEI to put our heads together and to look at completely new models in how we address what we need to, which is deliver optimal results for transformative purposes, then stick with old modalities that have become quite outdated. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Indran. Would anybody else like to address these questions?
Well, maybe on the first one, I think what is important to note here is that we are kind of dealing with different levels of evaluations, and we are dealing with evaluation as different types of organizations. Our unit, which is part of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, is really what we are evaluating is our own organization. We are not really evaluating our partner countries as such. It's basically our object of evaluation is ourselves, if you want to put it like that. So whenever we can, we of course try and use some local evaluators when there's some country cases involved. But really, what we are evaluating is Finland's own performance in advancing its policy objectives. And yes, we try and include all kinds of different considerations when we are making up the different terms of references, the different skills and competencies needed, including local context, knowledge, and using different types of profiles for evaluators as such. And as an office, we have also advanced, we have co-created a guidebook, which is advancing country-led evaluation in the different partner countries. We are showcasing some successful cases across the globe who have conducted some national level SDG Agenda 2030 evaluations, which have been country-led. And that is very much, giving that voice and focus to local needs and national priorities and different ways to incorporate those aspects into evaluation, because there's no one-size-fits-all model. Obviously, they can take many different forms and catering for the different needs of different countries and localities that are involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Nea-Mari. And this has been the guidebook that you are referring to is the one that you actually have coordinated and co-created with Germany and UNICEF and IDEAS, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a very fine example of collaboration to keep maybe ECD alive and the agenda. I have more questions. So Robin, unless you have answers for those one too, I would go ahead and read more.
Yeah, thank you very much. And maybe with regard to the use of national systems, our evaluation system is organized on a division of labor basis, so with different roles and responsibilities. And we, as the evaluation unit within the ministry, our role is to set standards, to steer the overall system and coordinate, but we do not commission or conduct evaluations on our behalf. So this is rather the task of the implementing agencies of our development cooperation, that we can, of course, encourage to go into this direction. But it's a little bit, so to say, out of our hands, since they are, of course, independent, and this is important when they conduct their evaluations. Thank you.
Thank you. So another panelist today said, at what point do you stop and say capacity has been developed to take on their roles? I see capacity enhancement programs running for several years. So when do we have a mature system that we say, okay, is enough? More questions are available, but I would stop here. I would like to invite maybe Jos. Can I ask you to address this question? When do we have enough capacity developed at the country level? When can we say that is enough?
You're putting me on the spot here, and especially in the presence of such eminent panelists. So let me try to be very brief. I think when we talk about evaluation capacity development, we should always think from the perspective of the ultimate utility of it. How are public policies changing lives? How are policies and interventions contributing to that? And what processes do we need in order for the right learning decisions to be taken to foment that process? I think that is a constantly evolving field, which constantly requires support at the highest political level, at the technical level. Having said that, I think most of us around the table would agree that in order for evaluation capacity to be successful, you need to take a systemic approach. There needs to be legislation in place, a policy environment in place for evaluation to work. There needs to be a culture of understanding of an awareness of how evidence can help learning and decision-making among decision makers, but also on the supply side. There need to be actors in society that request accountability from institutions, that request that institutions learn from failures and from successes. So these are broad-based processes that always require a systemic approach. So I would not say that ever this kind of work that we are doing ends. It's a continuous process. So hopefully more and more countries are moving towards this more systemic evolution where different stakeholders understand the importance of evaluation and how it affects eventually better policies and better lives. So let me stop here. It's a very difficult question.
Thank you, Jos. I knew you could answer. Nea-Mari, Robin, Indran, would you like to add anything?
No, I fully agree with everything Jos has said. We worked together for a long time, more than a decade, on the next series, trying to build up capacity. I just want to add a historic dimension to it. You know, when is the job done? When do you tick off and say the country now has adequate evaluation capacity? And the answer to that is never. Because it's linked to a political architecture, it can change. So without mentioning countries, many had reached their peak years ago, and then they collapsed because of political changes. And then you start all over again. And there are examples of that across the globe, not confined to the global north or global south. So one needs to be very vigilant that while you can put all the effort in, a political shift, when a prerequisite of independent evaluation or evaluation is democracy, transparency, accountability, a free press, media, when those elements begin to get suffocated, then it affects evaluation very directly because it freezes out critical thought, critical thinking, alternative views. So we need to be vigilant, but we need to continue our work as best we can. There are good signs. Many places that previously would not have used the word evaluation for political reasons now are actually doing very well, and vice versa. Thank you.
Thank you, Indran. So I have another question that came in. And in many countries, evaluation is understood mainly as performance assessment or audit, while development partners emphasize learning, outcomes, and impact. Should capacity development follow national interpretations, or should development actors help broaden the understanding and use of evaluation? Who would you like to take that question? Nea-Mari,
Sorry, I'm laughing because I
spot?
think this is a difficult question, and I think this is about the epistemics of evaluation as such, and it's way beyond I don't know my capacity to answer. But anyway, gosh, it's of course evaluation in terms of how it's organized in different organizations takes many forms. It can sometimes be part of knowledge management, sometimes it's side by side with audit functions, and this is a reality that we're living in, but I don't think that necessarily changes the function of evaluation as such. It can be situated in a different parts of the organization in different organizations, but still I think that we do share some core elements of what it is to do evaluation and what are the principles and guidelines, generally speaking, what is the terminology. I think that there is a kind of shared core to that. I think it's a bit similar to how the language has evolved around M&E, whether it's PMNE, MNELR, and what have you. I think, yes, there might be some trends that have affected how these things evolve in the landscape, but also I think it's a question of how different organizations are set up, not just as kind of an emphasis of semantics. So many things affect how evaluation is conducted in reality, but I do still think that there is a common core to what we're doing, and this is something that we can all carry forward. I do understand that this has not answered this question at all, but this is my attempt. Thank you.
Thank you, Nea-Mari. Would like anybody else to jump into answering this question?
Fully agree with Nea-Mari. I agree with the core. but something I would like the audience to think about. We have clear definitions of evaluation in our literature and in the books, but in practice, evaluation is often defined in ways that are politically tolerable. So in cases where it's not highly democratic and not fully accountable, the word that is used is learning, help the managers. But in essence, accountability is accountability, and it's also about evaluation for whom. If it is just to improve programs and help management, that's very different. That's more monitoring. But if it's evaluation to advance the public good, to be more democratic, then it needs to be more independent and definitely critical. So we hear this in the conversations that comes about when you're talking about evaluation policy. The managers would, or the politicians would define it in a way in which they can control. But we as evaluators would like it to be defined in a way that it is out beyond control, so that it really brings about the debate and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have now a question regarding AI, and Eri Damaze Sosu is asking, how do evaluator capabilities need to change for the AI era? Which core skills remain essential and which new technical, ethical, and managerial competencies are required? So I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I'd like to have a volunteer based on your, thank you, Robin. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if I can answer the whole question properly, but I can share some thoughts on AI and our perspective. What's AI? So we think it's a very powerful enabler, but of course, if it is used responsibly, since it can help us to manage and analyze large and complex data sets and identify patterns more quickly, tailor communication products to different audiences, and so on and so forth. So I think it will not replace monitoring and evaluation, but it needs to be integrated into the work of evaluators in ways that respect as well ethical standards, data protection and transparency, and that help to strengthen national evaluation capacities and systems. Yeah, over.
Thank you. Nea-Mari.
If I continue, thank you. To add what Robin already mentioned, the types of skills and capabilities, if we talk about individuals, I think, first of all, I think everybody needs an understanding of what those tools, the different tools are and how they function. And this is already quite a lot because there are many different tools and they don't really all function in the same way and with the same kind of a logic. Then secondly, I would say using those tools, what is appropriate use and how to use them within the evaluation context, that's another skill set, and that is already also very complex. Interpretation skills, to be able to interpret the different outputs from different types of tools, which is again something new to many. And also, because this is involving so many different actors in the field of evaluation, the skills to navigate the different rules and guidelines by different evaluation commissioners, different organizational contexts that are involved in your evaluation. I mean, that is quite a lot to manage. And this is something that I'm personally a little bit worried about, how to manage all of these complexities in using AI in evaluation in a situation where in some case it might be okay for a certain type of use, and then in another organization it might not be the same case. So yes, I would say it's quite a lot of new skills and capabilities needed for everyone, including our own office as commissioners of evaluation. So I think it's and the capabilities are in the need of constant updating of those skills, because the technologies are also so evolving at a very fast pace. Thanks.
Thank you, Nea-Mari. Indran.
Sure. So firstly, as evaluators, the core principles of research, skills, methodology, ethics must remain. That's intact. It's not replaced by AI. AI is simply a tool that supports part of the evaluation process. So I'd like to suggest a few terms to think about. In using AI, firstly, AI does not have a soul. It's not a human being. It's a tool, and it can be manipulated. An AI can read the same report that we have found negative and make it positive just by changing the prompt. So there's a great potential for manipulation. But the terms that I would come up in here is, before going in, let's pilot. We've done that at IFAD, IOE. Secondly, let's develop the skill of discernment and caution and not get excited by bells and whistles, which sometimes, because it happens so quickly, it gives you a graph and gives you various options. That doesn't mean it's good. Secondly, we need to build up something where we remain not easily convinced, to be skeptical, not cynical, and to be able to triangulate more. But also, and that is the biggest skill we need to be able to triangulate much more than we have, so that we ensure that we are making a case for that. Where it helps tremendously, it increases our efficiency in dealing with volumes, translation of data, of interviews, etc. So that's one part of it. But the interpretive dimension remains firmly in the hands of evaluators, who, in this era of data bombardment, I would call it, need to be very careful we do not get swamped with the technology, fall in love with it, and after a while begin to believe these are the answers. So the human in the loop is quite critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are approaching the end of the session, so we have many more questions that unfortunately we will not be able to address today. But before I ask Jos to give his closing remarks, I'd like to ask each of you to leave the audience with a thought regarding the following. If you could ask the evaluators and the national M&E people that are present today in the webinar to do one thing differently over the next couple of years, what would they need to do differently from what they do now? One advice. Indran, go ahead.
Be confident that what you're doing is for the public good. Advocate. Do not be apologetic for the work you do. And also recognize that since you're in the evaluation business and you want to make things better, you're going to get pushback. That's normal. But overall, eventually, we serve the public and do work for the public good. Thank you.
Thank you, Indran. That's very inspirational. Nea-Mari.
Okay, thanks. This is more perhaps from a systems perspective. My key message would be for everybody really not to take it for granted that there's demand for evidence in the future. We should never take that as granted, especially now in the age of AI, and we should all work towards keeping this agenda alive. You know, we all understand the benefits and the need for evidence-based policymaking in these times, but let's not take it for granted. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Robin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would have two thoughts. First of all, with regard to us as donors, our responsibility is, I think, not to build parallel structures, but to support partners to be in the driver's seat and to use and strengthen their own systems. This is something that we have discussed in this session. And I think with regard to evaluators from a ministry's perspective, and my fear, this might not be so popular, but if you want evaluation to really matter, we have to put, or you have to put, usability and timing at the center. So it's not just about generating evidence, but it's only to have the evidence available when the decisions are actually taken and in a form that policymakers and the public can digest them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, according to the reaction, I see everybody supports what you have said, the three of you. So thank you very much for the very thoughtful discussion that we had today. And thank you to our public for the Very interesting questions that you have posed. I'm sorry we couldn't cover all of them. But now let me turn again back to Jos. And Jos, now after these conversations and these remarks, what would you like to share with our audience, and how would you like to conclude this panel?
Thank you very much, Patricia. First and foremost, I would like to share that I was really impressed by the thoughtful remarks from the panelists. And I think the panelists were quite tested by excellent questions from the audience. So that was very, very good to see. I'm not going to summarize the discussion. We have an AI algorithm for that, of course. In fact, if we would do it right, we would use multiple AI algorithms. And if we would do it really right, we would actually develop a conceptual framework around the different topics that were discussed today. We would develop taxonomies around that, and then we would train an algorithm to interpret that information until we are satisfied with the output. So I think we are moving towards better practice in that regard. Just a few things that I picked up from the discussion. So I think overall, it is very clear that evaluation in a way needs to redefine itself, not just in the context of a constantly evolving world, but especially in light also of the topic of the Glocal Evaluation Week, the new data opportunities and the new opportunities for data management and data analytics using artificial intelligence. But at the same time, and also in the light of this, it is important, and this was mentioned by several, including very recently by Nea-Mari and also Robin, evaluation needs to continue to fight for its space and to prove its merit and worth of being a source of credible, independent judgment, as Indran said, for learning and accountability. That is very important. And no technology, or in a way, no other processes are geared to fulfill that role. In redefining evaluation, there were several good thoughts coming from the panel. Robin emphasized the need for more partnership and joint efforts and raising the importance of evaluation in the process or in the context of good governance. Indran pointed out, let's not forget about the fundamental principles and the unique features of evaluation. And Nea-Mari gave us, I think, very good insights, among many other things, into what this new opportunity space looks like when we start working more with data science and artificial intelligence more specifically. For me, a fundamental issue, one of many is, and the jury is still out, I think, is will AI level the playing field of capacities to produce evidence across countries, or will it lead to more inequality? And I think what I'm very tentatively observing, and I wouldn't want to stick my hand in the fire for that, is that probably both things are happening. In a way, it is leveling the playing field, but in order to do very good AI supported rigorous evaluation research, you actually need to have a number of things in place. So probably both things are happening. I also noted that all three panelists alluded to challenges for evaluation capacity development, and they highlighted the importance of a concerted strategic approach. GEI is one mechanism to do that, but this is, of course, a journey that never ends. It's non-linear, it takes a long time, but it's basically moving organizations and systems to a higher equilibrium where evaluative evidence is generated and used for the public good. I could go on and on and on. Thank you for these very provocative questions. Thank you very much to the panelists for excellent, thoughtful observations and interventions. Thank you very much to Patricia and Claudia for organizing this event. And finally, thank you very much to all the participants, especially those in the hemisphere where I am, who have to get up very early in the morning to be part of this event. So thank you very much and enjoy the other events at Glocal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you at the other events. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. All the best. Take care.
Thank you, Indran. Thank you,
Thanks.
Robin. Thank you, Nea-Mari.
Bye, Robin.
Thank
Nia,
you. Bye-bye.
Patricia,
Thank
Victoria.
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.